Hello and welcome to a very different style of video from myself. Today is a very highly requested video and one that has been mentioned in my Discord server. There is a link to that down in the description below, and also a lot of times in the comments and especially on Twitter and Reddit. And that video topic, as probably given away by the title, is a tour of all of my Excel spreadsheets. Now there is so much data that is in all of my Excel spreadsheets that it would genuinely come up to like a 2 or even 3 hour video if I was to sit down and explain every single cell. However, I'm not exactly going to do that, as that would make for an extremely boring video. I'm instead going to just go over one of the spreadsheets in today's episode and probably make this sort of a running series for, I don't know, 5 or 6 episodes or something like that, so you can see exactly what it is that goes on behind the scenes. Equally, I'm not entirely sure how this is actually going to run, whether it's going to work out to be a good video. I'm literally just going to take a look at my Excel spreadsheet and sort of talk through some of the code that's behind it and some of the theories and everything like that. So without further ado, let us jump on in to the Excel spreadsheet that we're going to be looking at first. Now, this spreadsheet that I have open at the moment, for some reason there is a orange box in the corner, not entirely sure what that is for. This is my data analysis page. This is where I work out all of the driver of the weekend stuff, all of the graphs that you see in the videos that get released for the race data analysis, the qualifying analysis, and everything like that. So it is this page here where all of the numbers get crunched and we have all sorts of comparisons and graphs and absolutely everything you could possibly imagine. But first we're going to take a quick look at the averages tab. This basically averages out all of the FP1 times, the FP2 times, the FP3 times, Q1 and, don't want to be doing that, Q1, Q2 and also Q3 times for every single race of the season so far, and we are up to Austria. It firstly works out the gap between each of the teammates, whoever is in front at the time. So Hamilton was 500ths ahead of Bottas in FP1, almost half a second ahead in FP2, half a second ahead again in FP3, and then Bottas was ahead in qualifying. Then if I just scroll all the way back up to the top once again, this table over here averages out all of those times for whenever one driver is ahead. So it doesn't average out all of the times in general. So for example, for the two Mercedes, it won't average out all of the gaps together to come up with one time. It will average out every single time that Hamilton is ahead, and then every time that Bottas is ahead. So there are some instances, I think Nikita Mazepin may not be ahead in one of the sessions in particular. Also Lando Norris in Q2 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo has never been faster than Norris in Q2, so Ricciardo doesn't have an average yet in terms of the comparisons that I can make for the qualifying analysis, but that's basically how I run it. Then heading back to the overall page, we can see that for the season so far, Hamilton has been ahead in qualifying, what's that on average across the 3 sessions, about 0.4 of a second. Compared to Bottas when he was in front, across the 3 numbers, it's about 0.2 on average a second. And then you can compare that again to Verstappen, Perez, etc, all of the drivers. We then have a couple of, a lot more graphs than I was expecting on this page. So this just looks at the overall gaps in practice. So although I don't use these ones anymore because I no longer do the practice data analysis, as I no longer have the time to do it, but this basically just puts on this data here, which is highlighted in a nice little graph format. So you can see in practice 1 and practice 2, Russell is ahead by 0.6, and then 0.8, and then 0.3 ahead in FP3, whereas Nicholas Latifi is rated as 0, so he's not yet been ahead of George Russell in FP3. And then exactly the same is done in qualifying, and you can see that, for example, the Haas here, Mick Schumacher in the grey, has always been ahead in Q1 and not Nikita Mazepin. And then that is just rinsed and repeated for every single team. So then from the averages tab, we'll take a look at the progressions tab. Now this is where I map on each of the qualifying gaps for everybody. So here are all of their positions for Austria in each of the sessions. Here are all of their lap times, their improvement from their smallest to their largest in practice, which is the P improve, then the qualifying improve, this is the qualifying improvement from their lowest position to the highest, then the standard deviation of those positions to see how fluctuaty uppy downy they were, and then again we have their gaps, We then have the positional difference to your teammates, which is just a simple one minus the other, and then a minus value means you are behind. It should really be a positive value is behind, but not to worry, it still makes sense. Then you've got the positional difference to that's the ranking actually. This is, yes, long formula rankings. I have a rather lot of these formulas here, the ones that are absolutely huge, and this basically just gives an arbitrary rank 1 through to 20 based on their positional difference to their teammate. So for example, Perez in FP1 being 7 positions behind in Austria, he will be given a poor rank because he was 7 positions behind his teammate. There's a big teammate disparity. And again, that is just rinse and repeated for all of the sessions. And then once again, we can see that the gap as well is given their arbitrary rank, which this is just another one of the ludicrously long formulas that I have written. So Hamilton was ranked 11. The higher the score, the worse it is. So he was 2.5 tenths faster, 2.5 tenths slower. Again, the minuses and the positives are backwards, but it does all work out and it does make sense. So he's given an 11 out of 20 for that. And then Schumacher is given a 1 out of 20 for being 7 tenths faster than Mazepin in FP1. So far, hopefully, all nice and simple. We then have the team's fastest lap times in each of the sessions. From there, I can then work out their improvement from each of the sessions. Again, I don't do anything with practice anymore because I just don't have the time to do it, as I work Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So I don't have the time to make the practice edition of the race weekend data analysis on the Saturday, as it's going to be a bit pointless to get it out, because I could quite easily get it out. It would just come out after qualifying, and then I'd still have to make the qualifying video, and no one's going to be interested in a practice video that comes out after qualifying, so it just made more sense to drop the whole series completely. I'm somewhat updating the practice side, as it is used 2% in the overall driver of the weekend calculation, but again, if something slips off and is delayed a week, it's not the biggest impact overall because I just don't have the time anymore to create it. And then scrolling down just a little bit, we again have all of the graphs. So we have the driver progressional graphs. This just maps on each of the overall lap times for, once again, practice, which is no longer used. And then we have the practice progression. So all of these other practice ones. This is the 2 Mercedes practice times, which you can nicely compare. And then again, you have the gaps overall. These colors should change automatically, but sometimes it gets a little bit confused and it doesn't. So I believe to the right is Lewis Hamilton, which should be the black. And then the left here is Valtteri Bottas, which should be turquoise. But then moving away from practice, we can scroll just a little bit further down and then we end up with the qualifying graphs. So we have the Mercedes qualifying progression, then the Mercedes qualifying gaps once again. Then I think somewhere is the overall qualifying graph. Here we go. Qualifying driver progression. There's that one there for the Q1, Q2, and Q3 times on the graph. Then you've got the most improved in each of the sessions as well. Again, I only use the Q1 to Q2 and Q2 to Q3 graphs. What's that? There's lots of stuff that's just littered everywhere. I mean, I have a whole test sheet here, which I don't even know what this is testing. I don't know. It's got some positions from somewhere for some race. It's got lap times for Lewis Hamilton in some Grand Prix. It's got some lap times for another Grand Prix. I don't know. I just don't know what this is testing. It's testing something. I must have done this a very long time ago. Anyways, back to the progressions. I think that is pretty much everything up to the column of Y. So if we now just scroll along a little bit, we then end up going all the way over to CA. There you go. Jesus, these are so bloody big. So this basically maps on all of the positions in practice. As you can see, I haven't even corrected the change in the calendar for practice because it's just something I've dropped off. But I have missed this last triple header filling in for the practice information. But again, it only accounts for 2%. It's not the biggest. Yes, it's still an issue, but it's not the biggest issue on the planet. It works out the head-to-head performance, which again, I haven't finished coding it because it's so long. It's the same stuff. It's so long to do overall, and I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 races left to go. And again, exactly the same for Valtteri Bottas to work out the head-to-head values automatically all for me. Then got the average positions. their average based on the round that it is at the moment. Then you have the FP1 positions in a graph format. Then along here, you have their head-to-head graphic. So we can see that in practice, Hamilton is vastly superior to Bottas in practice overall. And then scrolling down just a little bit more, we have exactly the same, a 100% identical copy, but for qualifying. Now, this is the one that I do update because qualifying does have a much more significant weighting than practice, 14 times the amount of weighting. And again, it's the same head-to-head automatic calculations for me in each of the sessions. So it's 4-5 in favour of Bottas in the Q1 head-to-head, 5-4 in favour of Hamilton in the Q2 head-to-head, and then in the Q3 head-to-head it is 6-3 overall. Then once again you have the visualizations of the head-to-head in qualifying, and then over to the right you've got the overall Q1 positions, which that's very uppy-downy for Mercedes there. Normally they're very consistent the past couple of years, and then again their Q3 positions once again. I am really not sure how this video is actually going to turn out. I'm going to have fun editing this, but this is something I've also thought about sort of possibly live streaming. I'm not 100% sure. So post Grand Prix, for instance, if I had Mondays off, which I would really appreciate if I had Mondays off, but unfortunately, again, I don't until about late afternoon, I would love to just sit and just live stream the whole process of crunching all of the numbers. People can just hop in, ask questions. I'd obviously have to look at live streaming as I've never really done it before. I only ever make videos. I'm up to, this is 286 that you're currently watching at the moment. So I would really like to give that a shot to let people see the whole process behind it and then just talk to me whilst I do it for 2 hours, 3 hours. So please let me know in the comments below if that is something that you'd be interested in seeing. Oh, how far have we been recording? For 15 minutes. Oof, and we still haven't even gone over the race. Oh, blimey, where are we? The race data, there is a lot. There is so much in the race data. I think this one, if I just go to a blank cell below everything, here we go. If I just do a quick equals count, let's just count all of the cells that, let's just count all of the, here we go. Let's just count all of the cells that I've got. Look, I'm over in KK. What is this ridiculousness? Where is that? Oh my god. 42,000 cells worth of data in this one tab. Admittedly, this is the biggest tab that there is, as this works out all of the like clean air laps. For instance, this is the clean air lap algorithm for all of the lap times. We've got position. Nope. This is ranks for the lap gaps. You've got the gaps to your teammate on each of the laps. So there was an 8/10 difference between Hamilton and Bottas on lap 1, a 2/10 difference on lap 2, a 9/10 difference, etc., etc. Then you've got the pit stop phases where there was a 12-second and a 16-second gap between them. You then got their percentage pace differences where you take all of one driver's lap times, divide them all by the others, order them or convert them to a percentage, order them from largest down to smallest. Then anything below 100 is where Valtteri Bottas is faster. And then anything above 100 is where Lewis Hamilton is going faster, as explained in the race data analysis. I needed to plan this better because there's so much stuff. So we will start in the first table. The first table that is in this. This is just base lap times. This is all of the drivers' lap times for the Austrian Grand Prix. Then the table directly to the right is the summated lap times. Now this works out the total elapsed time for each driver on each lap. So if we were to go to lap, I don't know, 21 and scroll along to Carlos Sainz, 1,603.389 seconds had elapsed for Carlos Sainz since the start of the Grand Prix on lap number 20, compared to 1,573 for Lewis Hamilton. So there was a, 30 second gap between the two drivers on lap 21. Then to the right of the summated times, we then have their positions. Now I have to have the lap counts to the left of each of the drivers in order for the graphs to look nice. Otherwise, it just gets very, very arsey grumpy at me if I don't. Otherwise, it gets really difficult to it's so hard to explain because, again, I wrote this so long ago. Oh no, what did I do? Yeah, I wrote this in December, the majority of this, December, January, February. It was basically my off-season thing as I ran a small little pilot series for the data analysis over that December period when the 2020 season ended, in order for me to nail it for 2021, where I didn't have to make that many changes overall. So a lot of what is on screen currently, I don't actually remember writing. Like, I don't remember making it work, but I know it does because I spent so long writing it, and about 2 months, a month and a half writing it overall. But if we were to just take a look back at it, once again, you then have the positional difference. So we can see that Hamilton was ahead by 1 position, therefore Bottas was behind by 1 position on lap number 1. You've then got the ranks for those. So again, that's just the arbitrary rank 1 through to 20 for each of the drivers based on the largeness of the positional difference. You've then got just a bank store of all of the Bahrain positions, the Imola positions, Portugal positions, every single race of the Grand Prix, alternating white to yellow so I can actually visually see where it is. Otherwise, it gets very difficult to see where it is. But if we go back to Bahrain and scroll directly below it, this table here is the average position for Lewis Hamilton on lap number 1 across the 9 Grand Prix that have happened so far this season. And so far, his average on lap number 1 is position 3. However, he will move up a position on lap number 2, and he will go up to P2. And so far, he hasn't actually averaged anywhere as P1, as Max Verstappen is fairly consistent at the moment as P number 1, and this is helped by working out if a driver is doing well or not, as the table directly to the right of this basically looks at the difference for the current race minus your average across the season. So, for example, if Hamilton in one race was running in P1 versus his average, that would be good, because on the average across the races previous, he'd be running in P3, whereas now he's running in P1, so he gets a decent score. So then moving along to this table on the right, we can scroll down and everything gets averaged. So a lower number is better, 0 is fine, that just means you're exactly where you should be. 1 means you're you weren't super good, but you weren't super bad. So yeah, a high negative, low negative number. The lower the negative number, the better. The higher the positive number, the worse. I've got that completely backwards. That is absolutely, completely and utterly backwards. It should be completely the other way around. Negative numbers are bad. Positive numbers are good. And again, this is where I get slightly confused because it's been such a long time since I've written this. So perhaps I should have planned it a little bit better, as I've been rambling for 21 minutes. At the moment, we now have the raw lap times. This is again each of the laps for each of the drivers and then their previous race that they have been at that track. Nice and simple. Somewhere I've got some graphs. I've no idea where. The graphs usually hide from me somewhere. Here, just more positions. I don't know what these are for, without NA values apparently. Cool. God, this video is going to be so bad. Fastest lap minus a second. I can't remember what that's for. Actually, oh no, I do know what that's for. This is something I'm testing. This should be my test file. Whoops, that shouldn't be in this one, because I'm testing something at the moment to try and produce a graph to sort of show the gaps between each of the drivers visually, to see if anyone's holding anyone up, see if anyone's going quickly, anyone's going slowly. However, it sort of gets very confusing when there's a race where there's multiple leaders, as then it just lots of like crossing over. And it looks really weird, so I want to try and set a benchmark lap time that isn't essentially anyone's lap times. It's a couple of percent or maybe a full second or something faster than the overall fastest lap time. But it's really difficult to actually get that. And then I can see who's actually doing really well and who's not doing so well. But again, that's something I need to just play around with, and something that is slowly coming in the future. But back to it once again. I'm very lost, by the way, absolutely appallingly lost, because I never planned it to be looked at. I never planned it to be looked at. Where the hell are my graphs? I have a bunch of graphs somewhere. Are they here? Nope. I have some graphs somewhere. I know I do. Oh, I know I've got like 40 or 50 graphs somewhere, but I don't know where they are. I'm so lost in my... Oh, okay, what's this? This is the percent... I'm close to the graphs, I think. I think. So this is the percentage pace difference overall. So this works out, like I said, it takes all of one driver's lap times, divides them all by the others, orders them smallest down to largest or largest down to smallest, whichever way around it is. And then Bottas, whenever he is under 100, he's going faster. And then whenever Hamilton is above 100, Hamilton is going faster. And then this will average out any of the values that are in that particular range. So I can say that for 42.3% of the Austrian Grand Prix, Hamilton was physically the faster of the two Mercedes. Yes, he did have his damage that cost him just over 0.4 of a second, so Bottas was going faster for 57.7. Verstappen and Perez 93-7. Again, I broke this down in the race data analysis, the biggest teammate difference of the entire weekend. Where the hell are my graphs? I have graphs somewhere. Let me zoom out. I've got some graphs. There they are. They're hiding from me. That's what they're doing. Okay, right. So this is all of the graphs that I use for the data analysis videos, the race data analysis videos. So we've got the percentage pace difference. This just plots on exactly what we have just looked at. Then we have the overall lap chart. And then again, for the Mercedes lap chart, this maps on everything to the left of us. Nope. This is the gaps chart that's to the left. Okay, I don't know where it is, and I can't be bothered to go find it, otherwise I'm going to get very lost. You then got the positions table overall. Oh, shit. That was an accident. Let me just undo that. Then you've got the overall Mercedes gaps chart here, where you can see where they come in for their pit stops. Hamilton came in for his pit stop, spiked in Valtteri Bottas' favour, and you can see that Bottas was going faster as the gap was going up. Nice and simple. That is the race table all done and dusted. I just need to rearrange all these graphs, otherwise I'm going to get grumpy at myself. Now, finally, we have the driver of the weekend. Now, can I remember what all of these colours mean? The dark green is categories relating to the race. Blue is categories relating to practice. And then light green is any relating to qualifying. And up top here, we have the individual ranks. And then down here, we have the teammate categories. So this is basically where all of the data comes. So through the averages, through the progressions, through the race data, it all gets funneled here. This is where all of the crunching happens, and it is all done automatically. And this gives the scores to each of the drivers. So for example, in qualifying, where the car should be, race, where the car should be versus where the car is, the clean air laps, the percentage pace, the your average position, that's written backwards, minus your current position, then all of your qualifying positions, etc. Then you get your practice score for the 3 practice sessions, and then your overall practice session. You then get your qualifying score, and then you get your race score, and then you get a combination of all of them, which takes 70% of the race, 28% of qualifying, and 2% of the practice score. Then exactly the same is done for the teammates overall. So again, you've got the percentage pace difference, which we've seen, 93-7. Perez gets an extremely low score because he's at the bottom of that list. This is where Perez really struggles because he just doesn't perform, both Perez and also Mazepin, and very occasionally Daniel Ricciardo in the last couple of races. They perform very, 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 very badly against their teammates and are ranked very low in the overall teammate scores compared to their teammate. However, the teammate overall categories, these ones here, again, after taking 70% of the race scores, 28% of qualifying and 2% of practice, we then take only 30% of this overall one here to make a combination of... Here we go. So it takes 30% of qualifying just there, and then 70% of the race, and then I round it just to 1 as we get a nice 1. Oh, no. We then get just one nice 1 decimal place. I think this video is going to be really shit. Then directly below this, we have a nice little... so this is what you see in the video that gets released on Tuesday-ish, Wednesday-ish. This is the exact table that I just copy and paste in. It just sorts all of this data for me for the largest down to the smallest. Exactly the same for my opinion ranks, and then your average audience ranks as well. And then we have the entire season scores at the moment. If I just bump them up, Verstappen is leading by just over 10 points, and then Russell is third according to the data. And then you've got just the data stores, so we can see where each driver was doing really well. Higher scores are better, lower scores are worse. And I think that is everything. That is everything for the data analysis spreadsheet. I really don't know how well that video's turned out. It could be really good, or it could be a little bit shit. I'm sort of leaning towards the latter. I do apologize if it was, whether it was rushed. It really wasn't planned. I know I've wanted to make this for a while. I just have no idea how to do it. I just struggle to think like a videographer. I really struggle to put my ideas into video, especially when editing as well, because I'm not the brightest editor. I'm not like people that can do all sorts of fancy editing. I just do basic cuts and very basic transitions and a couple of zoom in and things like that. And especially for something as bland and as boring as an Excel spreadsheet, it is very difficult to sort of make that engaging. But I try and do that with the way that I speak, the how I talk about it and things like that, and how engaging I can be. So I hope I did good. I hope I did good. But please let me know of anything down below in the comments if you have enjoyed this series, if you would like me to continue it, as I do have a bunch of other spreadsheets. But this was the biggest. This was the biggest spreadsheet that I've got, as one tab had 42,000 cells worth of data in it. So it's by far and away the biggest. All of the others are going to be a lot shorter than this, and I can probably combine it all into one episode or so. So please let me know if you'd like me to continue with this little series. Or, equally, more importantly, if you had any advice or any sort of improvements for the series, then please do let me know. But that is all I've got for you today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. And also, finally, just before I disappear, let me know about that live stream idea. If you actually like the idea of me doing a little live stream on Monday or Tuesday or whenever it is, whenever I get around to crunching all of the data, just let me know if you think that'll be a cool idea. But that is all I've got for you today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next episode of whatever and whenever I decide to make it. I'll see you guys then.